Okay, let's talk about a huge challenge that basically every single teacher knows all too well. You get a curriculum that feels like it's built for a year with 100 extra days. So how in the world do you decide what to teach and what to cut when there's just not enough time?
Right, let's just look at the numbers because they really tell the story here. You've got these curriculum materials, and they're often designed for like 270 days of instruction. But in reality, after you account for assemblies, field trips, holidays, the real world, a teacher is lucky to have about 140 days. That gap is just massive.
And what that gap creates is this really intense, high-pressure situation. You, as the teacher, are forced to make these tough calls about what content gets left on the cutting room floor. And the worst part, you're usually making these decisions all by yourself, with no real guide, which means what kids learn can be wildly different from one classroom to the next.
So, what's the fix? Well, the answer doesn't start with a giant pair of scissors. It actually starts with a new way of thinking. It's about shifting our whole perspective, not from what to cut, but what to connect. How can we bundle things together in a way that just makes sense?
And what's so powerful about this approach is just how simple and elegant it is. There aren't a bunch of complicated rules on how to group these learning standards. There's really only one. Whatever you bundle together has to have a truly meaningful connection. That's it.
Let's walk through what this actually looks like. So, for example, you could take a digital reading standard, where students are reading stuff on a screen, and you can bundle that with a digital writing standard. Okay, makes sense. Then you add a listening standard that's all about media sources, and top it off with a presentation standard where they have to use some kind of media tool. You see the common thread, right? It's all connected.
And here's the payoff. All of a sudden, those four separate standards, they're not four different things anymore. They combine to become one single, logical media project. So instead of trying to cram in four separate lessons at four different times, you teach them and you assess them all together. It's just so much more efficient.
Okay, so that's bundling on a small scale, right? For one project. But what if we took that idea and blew it up? What if we created a map for the entire school year, something every single teacher could use? Well, that map has a name. It's called a year-long context, and you can think of it as a consistent, district-wide framework. It lays out the absolute minimum, the non-negotiable standards, in a logical order for the whole year. It becomes the guaranteed curriculum that every student is going to get.
Now, this next part is absolutely crucial to understand. It's about what this map is and what it isn't. It is a balanced, logical sequence of standards. It is not a rigid, day-by-day calendar that tells you you must introduce this on October 5th and they must master it by the 12th. That kind of rigidity is what forces teachers to cram stuff in at the last minute, and it completely defeats the purpose of having a logical pace. This gives you so much flexibility. It just means that sometime within a given window, let's say you have an 8-week unit, that standard needs to be directly taught and assessed. It doesn't have to be the biggest, fanciest project of the marking period. It doesn't have to get all the attention. It just has to happen. And this all leads to what might just be the most powerful outcome of having a year-long context. It's a kind of promise. A promise that perfectly balances consistency with freedom for the teacher. Here's how it works. The framework is built so that about 50% of your instructional time is dedicated to that consistent, non-negotiable map of standards. This is the guarantee. It ensures every kid gets that essential learning no matter which teacher they have. And the other 50%? Well, that is protected time. That time belongs completely to the teacher. It's their time to design, to create, to innovate, and maybe most importantly, to respond to the unique needs of the actual kids sitting right there in front of them.
So let's circle all the way back to that teacher we started with, the one staring down a 270-day curriculum with only 140 days on the calendar. What does all of this mean for them? It means they can finally cut with confidence.
This right here, this is the win, because every single teacher now has a clear map of what's absolutely non-negotiable, that core 50%. They also know with total certainty where they have complete freedom. They are finally empowered to look at those giant, oversized textbooks and trim away what they don't need, without any of the fear or guilt. So what's the end result of all this? Well, it's the end of decision fatigue. This system just lifts that incredible weight off of a teacher's shoulders. No more making those high-stakes choices all alone. Instead, you get a guarantee that all the key standards are covered, which gives you the freedom to innovate and the extra time and energy to focus on your students.
And at the end of the day, that's the real takeaway here. This whole thing isn't just a fancy organizing tool. It's a fundamental shift.
It's about creating a system built on trust and support, an environment where teachers and students can really, truly thrive. And it leaves you with a really exciting question. If a clear plan can create this much freedom for teachers, what other amazing things could it unlock for our students?